monkeys was then sort of taken and compared with the portfolios of the wealthiest, smartest people on Wall Street. So what Burt Malkiel basically did was he said, look, if I'm right about my theory, then these monkeys, the stocks picked by these monkeys, will make as much money as the stocks picked by the experts on Wall Street. And what happened was the monkeys actually beat the humans 50% of the time. That the monkeys actually had portfolios where if these monkeys were trying to invest for their children or whatever, their children and grandchildren, if they engaged in a consistent investing strategy, their children and grandchildren would be multimillionaires. So a lot of people were confused by this experiment, and they didn't believe him. They thought he was crazy. They thought he was full of it. So he just did it over and over and over again. That's one of the parts, components of the scientific method, is you got to prove things. You got to do it over and over and over again. And as he did it over and over and over again, he got the same result. Sometimes the monkeys will win, sometimes the humans will win. But there was nothing that clearly distinguished between the investment outcomes between humans and monkeys. So you would say, like, well, how the hell does that happen? How can a bunch of monkeys pick stocks and do as well as people that went to Harvard? Well, that comes from something that's called the efficient markets hypothesis. And what the efficient markets hypothesis basically says is that it kind of says that if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Somebody else has probably already sort of factored that in and figured some things out. And let me give you an example. Let's say you go into the store, right? And let's say that you see two computers, right? One computer is, and let's say they look identical. They look exactly alike. But they're right next to each other. One computer costs, $800. And let's say that you look at the computer next to it. And that computer is $250. What goes through your head? Do you say, oh my God, I'm so smart. Look at me. I found the same computer for $550 less than the other computer. Is that what you say? That's not what I would say. What I would say is, why is this one, can you explain why these two computers look alike, but this one's $250 and this one's $800? And then if the sales clerk says, oh no, you just got lucky, this one's just $250, I still wouldn't believe him. I'd probably say, no, come on, there's some. And then what will probably make more sense is if he said, oh yeah, the one that's $800 has a better processor than the one that costs $250, or the one that's $250, that's a refurbished computer, right? And so basically what that argument says is that, in a market that is what is called efficient, and meaning that, everybody has information, everybody knows what's going on, everybody sees the same things, then, things are going to kind of have the price that they're supposed to have already. The art or the act of going through and trying to find these sneaky little deals doesn't really work in what is called a pure efficient market. And the stock market is pretty pure, pretty efficient. And what that means is that, these stocks have been analyzed over and over and over again by analysts and experts ad nauseum. All they do is sit down and they look at the values of the company's assets, their future revenues. They look at everything going on in the political environment. And they come up with a price. And that price is usually pretty close to what it should be based on the information that's out there. So if you think that you can invest and you say, oh, well, look at me, I'm smart. I'm going to go and I'm going to find all the stocks that are undervalued. I'm going to find, the stocks I invest in are the ones that cost $50 but are really worth $80 or whatever, or they're going to shoot up through the roof because they've got all this hidden value that only I know about. Well, then you're kind of fooling yourself. You're kind of thinking that you can be smarter than the market. And what Malkiel kind of proved is that most people aren't smarter than the market. They might get lucky, but they're not smarter than the market. So the reason the monkeys were able to make as much money as the experts is because whatever stock the monkeys bought, the price was what it was supposed to be. The monkey didn't have to figure out if the stock was accurately or precisely priced. All they had to do was just pick one. So if I go in and I grab either computer, if I grab the $800 computer, I'm going to probably get an $800 computer. If I grab the $250 computer, I'm going to get a $250 computer. The benefit is that I save some money, but the downside is that my computer is not as good, right? So same thing. You get two companies that look identical. One has a share price that's here. One has a market value that's down here. Well, both of these stocks can be good investments. But the difference is that one company just happens to be better than the other, and the prices reflect that. So what that does, what this efficient markets hypothesis really does, is it allows anybody, including a monkey, to invest in the stock market without being afraid that they're gonna screw it up. So that's probably the most important thing I'm teaching you now about investing is don't be scared. I'm friends with Miguel Nunez out in LA. You remember him from Life when he said, "Don't be scared." The reason a lot of us miss out on wealth is because we just scared. Because they make it look complicated. They use the crazy terminology and all these factors, and you watch Bloomberg and your head spinning because they're talking about all these economic issues. And don't get me wrong, all those things matter. They do matter. But you can also invest like a monkey and still build wealth. And the monkey builds more wealth than the brilliant person who avoids the market because they are afraid. So that's